must be something going on. For those of you who haven't seen me in a while, I'm standing up here with a beard, and it's really because I knew I needed something to camouflage myself these days so that I could hide appropriately. But actually, it was a bad bet with my son over a football game that went wrong. So, but it's good to see all of you here in the beginning of 2025, and we've got an incredibly packed agenda, and I know that there's a lot on your mind. So we're going to just jump right in with some acknowledgments early on. Always want to start these town halls on a high note and deep appreciation for members of our community. Let's begin with that. Before we get started with specific recognitions, I wonder if Ms. Betsy Honesty is here. Is she here? Back? At any rate, she spent a lot of time with volunteers leading our holiday party last month. It was always a success, but I want to give her a round of applause. Next up, let's just go to slide 4. So next I want to take a moment to acknowledge the extraordinary dedication of our brigade members who do so much behind the scene and in front. Listed here on this slide are those who have gone above and beyond and received awards and acknowledgement for their activities. I particularly want to make mention of HM1 Jonathan Shoemaker and Staff Sergeant Matthias Downs, who I hope can come up and join me. HM1 Shoemaker has been named the Senior Service Member of the Year, and Staff Sergeant Downs has been selected as the Junior Service Member of the Year. So let's give them a round of applause. Of course, they received the coveted President's coin that I know everybody is after. Okay. Next, I would like to thank Lieutenant Colonel Melinda Boyd, who is serving as this year's combined federal campaign manager. They did a spectacular, Colonel Boyd and her team did a spectacular job with the CFC campaign and came within 97% of its goal. More importantly, they received the CFC Summit Award, which is presented in recognition of the outstanding collective impact through 2024 on the dollars raised for the campaign. So let's give them a round of applause. Let's give them a round of applause. And as always, we've had an incredible record of having dedicated federal civilian employees who, over many years of dedicated service, have contributed to USU and the success of its mission. This year, we have the ability to recognize individuals who have served 25 years, 30 years, 35, 40 years, and even 45 years. That's longer than I've been alive. And so thanks to all of you for your dedicated service, everything you do for USU, what you bring to the collective team and effort and support of our mission and its success. Several of them are with us here today, and I'd ask you to come forward to be recognized.
Great. Could we have Darla Henderson, Stephen Beck, Dr. Ursano, if you're here, Michelle Glasser. They are celebrating 35 years of federal service.
Another round of applause.
All right, now is Michael Marbley here? Dealer? No? Okay, he's celebrating 40 years. Dr. Sarah Contente, are you here? She's celebrating 45 years.
All be that lucky to serve in this excellent position for so long. Thank you so much for your dedicated decades of service. All right. Now I'd like to invite Dr. Glenn Deal, Vice President for External Affairs, to join me up here to present the next set of awards.
So today we have the opportunity to celebrate the outstanding work of our communications professionals in the inaugural USU Communications Awards, the first tier in the annual Defense Media Merit Awards competition. This year marks an exciting milestone. For the first time ever, the defense media activity has included USU as a phase in its prestigious awards program. That means our talented communicators are now officially part of a competitive process that recognizes excellence across the Department of Defense. Today's winners have excelled at the USU level, but their journey isn't over. They will now move on to the next tier, which is the Military Health System-wide competition. Winners at that stage will then advance to the final tier, which is the Defense Media Merit Awards program, where they will compete against the best from all of the years. The MHS level competition will be judged in February, and the final Defense Media Merit Awards judging will take place in March. Winners will be announced March 19th, so while today is a celebration, it's also just the beginning of their journey. Hopefully we'll come back with some additional awards. When I call your name, can you please join Dr. Woodson at the podium? Tom Balfour. Tom is the recipient of 3 first-place awards. The best feature photo for his photo from the CRNA training program at the FBI Hostage Rescue Team Training Center. The best news photo for his photo of a graduate student in their lab, and first place for photojournalism for a series of his photos. So Tom, great job. The next group, and I have to say group, so Dina Kurzweil and the ETI team, and they come forward. ETI is also a recipient of the award, but he's not able to join us in person. ETI is the recipient of 2 awards, first place for Best Animation for their video addressing and preventing student mistreatment, and first place for Best Multimedia for their video Yerkes-Dodson Stress Curve. You can see both these videos on the US YouTube page. Thank you. Next, Adam Goldfein. Is Adam here? Very good. One of our visual information specialists on the External Affairs team has been awarded first place for layout and design for the School of Medicine playbook. Able to be with us today, but we'd like to recognize 2 of our talented writers, Miss Vivian Mason and Miss Hadia Brendel. Vivian took first place in the feature story category for article The Reinvention of Trevor Wallace from college dropout to USU medical student. Very impressive work if you haven't read it. And Hadia took third place in her article, Dr. Lynette Hamlin named inaugural director of USU Military Women's Health Research Program. Hadia took first place in the information story category for her article, USU Initiative Examines ECG Screening to Reduce Sudden Cardiac Death of Service Members. And Vivian took third place in her article, Empowering Women's Health. Vivian took second place in the Civilian Writer of the Year category, and Hadia took third place overall. Congratulations to both of our team members. And now for our final awardee, Sharon Holland, can you come over? So Sharon took second place in both the feature story category and the information story category for the articles USU Nursing Students Faculty Turn Mountain Medicine Training into Real-Life Rescue Mission, and USU researchers develop new vaccine candidate to combat chlamydia. And Sharon took home first place as the Civilian Writer of the Year. Again, congratulations, Sharon.
So let's give our awardees another great round of applause. And it's really important to note that we need to tell our stories. That is what increases our value proposition and allows us to get resources that we need. So our storytellers, which should include all of you, is extraordinarily important in getting the word out about the great work that is done here at USU. Now, before I move on, I just want to make a note. You know, last night there was a tragic event on the Potomac, and Mr. Walton Avalon, a USU facilities staff member and Coast Guard reservist, has been called up to assist in the response and recovery of the victims of that tragic crash. Also, our Center for the Study of Traumatic Stress is on standby to assist with the mental health response as well. These are the kinds of talented people that do multiple jobs within our community and are dedicated to this nation in selfless service. So I ask that you remember Mr. Walter Avalon and all of the people who are going to be responding, but most of all the victims of that tragic event. I want to take a moment to recognize the incredible work of another group, again, that works tirelessly behind the scenes to meet our needs. Since January 20th, our IT group has worked nearly round the clock to try and mitigate the impact of technical disruptions to our computer system. And it's a reminder of kind of the incredible, aggressive environment and hostile environment we're in the IT world. But we're deeply grateful for their expertise, perseverance, and unwavering commitment to this challenge. They really have done incredible work in creating workarounds so that we could sustain our programs. We hope to have restitution of all of our capabilities even bigger and better in the next couple of weeks. But without these important and talented individuals, Mr. Tim Rapp, who heads the group, Mr. Sean Baker, and the entire teams of NOC, academic support, and CDC, we could not have met our needs in terms of our mission. So let's give them a round of applause. Taught me a lot in the last couple of weeks about issues in IT, so thank you so much. So now on to discussion of difficult topics, perhaps, issues that are affecting our entire community, our entire federal workforce, our entire nation. In November, the American people elected a new president. And the new president has come in with a very aggressive mandate, and we are beginning to see those actions being implemented. As all of you know, if you watch the news or read the newspapers or any source of information, there have been a number of executive orders that have been promulgated by the White House and now are taking hold within the federal force. And as a result, I know it's generated a lot of issues, and so what I'm going to try and do is walk through some of the executive orders that are impacting us, are impacting, again, the entire federal workforce and multiple agencies. And I'm going to do this we solicited questions from all of you, and then at the end, if there are additional questions or comments, I will certainly take those on. So the first set of questions deal with this issue of return to work. An executive order was established almost within hours of the new administration coming in, requiring the suspension, really, of telework. So one question asks, what will you be doing to ensure telework and remote work remain in place during the administration? Not much latitude on this. It's pretty clear from the directive that was put out for all agencies in terms of the return to work. As of January 24th, agencies should have notified employees of the intent to comply with the presidential directive to return all eligible employees to full-time employment in a place of work. And we should do this expeditiously, it calls out. We need to revise telework agreements and provide the timelines for which eligible employees will return to work. We have to suspend remote or establish the issues around remote work, and this is, I know, going to take some time because many of our remote workers don't live in the area. So that there is a provision for assigning remote workers to a permanent work site where we have other facilities closer to where they live. There probably will be a pathway for exemptions, but let's be clear and realistic about this. As it stands now, all exemptions and the idea about exemptions, what defines legitimate criteria for exemptions, have not been promulgated. But all exemptions are going to have to go up to the Secretary of Defense at this time as we speak. Now, my anticipation is that because of the volume, eventually it'll be pushed down to the Undersecretary for P&R. But that's still quite a ways up in terms of approval. I, as a subunit agency head, will not have that prerogative to determine who's exempt from the policy of return to work. So I just want to be sort of clear about that. It's pretty straightforward there. We do have a limited ability to phase it in because we know that there's going to be turbulence in people's lives, but that's going to be limited. And everyone should expect to return to work in person by February 24th. Okay? The second question asked me, sir, in light of the return to work memo highlighted by the media from the Trump administration, will there be any ability to continue teleworking or working remotely for USU? Again, I'm reading this question. I think I've answered it already, but I want to make sure that everyone understands there is very little, if no latitude in the issue of return to work. We will do what we can in terms of individuals who have remote work agreements, live a far distance away to try and find sites. But in fact, But in fact, there is very little latitude in what we can do. Do you have any guidance about return to work for contractors with respect to the administration's directive? So right now, We don't have any guidance about contractors. Obviously, contractors work for their employers, and they are not federal employees. So they're not directly covered under this executive order. Those issues will be worked out with your individual employers. For employees who have worked hybrid schedules long before COVID, will they be able to continue to do so? Will it be at the discretion of the chair or the director? The answer is no. That in fact, all of these hybrid and telework positions are going to be reevaluated. And just to be clear, I'm responsible for sending up to the department an accounting for all of our workforce going forward. So I have very little discretion in this. The next question talks about currently the USU parking garage do not require parking passes. Is there a plan to return to the parking pass system? The answer is yes, because we've got to manage now the flow of individuals on and off the campus. What that will look like is yet to be determined. I won't tell you who's going to be on point, but I'm pointing at her. We're going to try and be fair about it, but obviously we're going to have to assess number of spots and who gets to park in our system. One of the issues we're going to have to police, because I'm not sure who else on the campus is parking in our system, but we're going to probably have to reinstitute some kind of control point to get into the garage in order to manage that situation. Next question asks, will those folks working 100% remote still have the opportunity to do so, or will they be required to make changes and accommodations? Again, the answer is yes. And again, I'm just repeating this because it's important to understand where we're going. The process for requesting reasonable accommodations to include telework, again, has not changed in the process, except to say that it has to go up now to the Secretary of Defense, and they very narrowly define, or I should say they will very narrowly define exemptions, and I don't have those criteria here at all. What we will do is we will solicit from folks why they think there's a justification. That is by no means a guarantee that it will be granted, but where we think there might be some legitimate reason for the exception to policy, we will move those up the chain for adjudication. The executive order and supplemental guidance do not address, as I said, contract employees, and there is yet much to be defined in terms of the specific guidance, as I said before. But target date, again, is February 24th for return to work. Okay. Next issue is the hiring freeze. So, as you know, there's a hiring freeze except for those individuals who are essential to national security. Now, we're all working for the Department of Defense, but that does not mean that we will be exempt from the hiring freeze, because I think they're going to narrowly define those individuals who are really working directly for critical issues in national defense and national intelligence. So we will be under a hiring freeze, and we'll have to reevaluate this process at this time, and also send up the chain any critical issues that might be impacted because we do not have employees. My suspicion is that there'll be a little bit more wiggle room in this if we can really justify why we need to hire folks on. And then I suspect after some time, there'll obviously be a rescinding of the hiring freeze for specified positions. Let me also give you the context here. Both the return to work and the hiring freeze are tools that the new administration is using to reduce the federal workforce and shape the federal workforce. And, you know, I don't think we need to be sort of oblique about that. It's intended for those purposes, and you're all familiar with DOGE and where that's going, and I think these are some of the early implementing strategies. So I'm going to pause there to see if there are any questions now about this topic of telework, remote work, return to work, and the hiring freeze. Yes, in the back.
Situational work.
Wait, there's a microphone up front, if you wouldn't mind just coming up to the microphone so everybody can hear.
Right, that would probably be great. My suspicion is that's still going to be permissible. So if there's emergencies or other issues, I suspect that will be continue. Yes. Yeah, just come on up to the microphone if you have questions.
Hello, my name is James Silva. I'm an HJF employee. I'm aware of several HJF employees who, for various reasons, can't get to the office or into the labs until after 9 a.m. And many of us are concerned that if there's parking issues on campus, it could be difficult for them to park, and they're a little far away, and public transportation is just not an issue. Is this something that, I don't know, that's been discussed, and how to address this?
Well, again, we're in all of these executive orders and issues are just landing on, and so we're going to have to work through this. I talked about some changes in parking, but as a contractor, you can actually negotiate that issue with your employer. Yeah. So you're in a little bit different, maybe better spot.
Thanks for the opportunity. I'm wondering if the full-time return to work for all government employees is going to include the medical students, because we typically give them study days at home and things like that.
Yeah, you know, the intent is to bring the federal workers back into the workplace. There's a rhythm that goes on in terms of academic life that I don't think is going to be disturbed by that, basically. So I'm not sure we need to overinterpret this. This is about full-time federal employees and bring them back to work. Does that answer your question? Other questions? Yes.
Q, I have two questions. One is, I wonder what are the protections for federal workers with respect to all of that's coming down? What happens if on 24 February people are not able to come back into the office? What exactly is going to happen to them? And the other question I have is, I don't know if others have received the fork in the road email yet. If we have, should we be taking that seriously? Thank you.
So, great questions. Number one, I don't know what's going to happen exactly on February 24th, to tell you the truth. The issue is that it's pretty clear they want you to come back in, and that failure to do so, adverse action will be taken. So, you know, that's the expectation. Now, what that means and how that will be staged and graded or whatever, I have no guidance on at this time. But February 24th is the target date, and folks expect to come back in. Now, let me caveat what I said a little bit, is that there is a little bit of discretion about phasing this in. So suddenly if we recognize an extraordinary hardship, I think that we can work with individual employees, but I don't think that they're going to look kindly on really excuses of if you live within the 50-mile working area for not coming back in unless there's a true hardship. And then we'll represent that for you up the chain, okay? So we do have a little bit of wiggle room to phase things in.
Thank you. This was actually a follow-up question to the previous question regarding the parking situation. We currently receive emails when there's an external event that's being held here, or we have, the third and fourth years will be back this week, parking will be difficult. And that's when we're not fully back to campus. I know you can't create parking spaces out of the air, but parking was pretty bad before COVID. And I think certainly going to the parking tags and having a point person at the guards is useful, but I'm not sure it's going to solve the problem if everyone has to come back on the same day. Or will they stop renting, using uses as a conference site and so forth to cut down on those situations where people physically can't come to work and park, or they'll get towed for parking illegally?
Yeah, no, so good questions. I don't have the answers to all of those. We're working through those sorts of issues now. You're right, that we're going to have to think about the special events. We've been pretty welcoming to other communities to use our space for special events. We're going to have to look at it all. And let me just be honest about one other issue, is that we know that there's been problems in getting on base when we had liberal telework, right? And so I expect that to get acutely worse. And so we're going to be in contact with, obviously, the installation commander about how we open up these additional gates. You've heard me talk before about how I've been willing to partner with the installation and offer up usually our enlisted folks who take the brunt of this to stand guard out there. And you've heard me joke even say that I offered my services, but they rejected me for standing guard out there. But I may have to do it. But if it gets gate 4 open, frankly. But the issue is we're going to have to take a deep look at all of the mitigating strategies for parking and access to the base. Because otherwise, if we just kept things the same, we'd have folks backed up all the way to 495 and then all the way down Wisconsin Avenue trying to get on base. And so we know we've got to address those issues. Yes? No, we'll put everything on the table and see what comes out. Although, that is our athletic field. So anyway, we're going to be looking at a number of strategies. Other questions about the hiring freeze or return to work? Okay. Now perhaps even a more sensitive issue, let's talk about the DEI executive order that came down. Questioner asked, in light of the recent presidential executive order abolishing DEI initiatives, which explicitly prohibits the preservation of such functions under this writer writes, under misleading relabeling, is there a plan to reinstate the time-honored military directive and regulations such as those outlined in FM 6-22, which emphasizes a shared understanding of military leadership by mastering the art and science of influencing others through purpose, direction, motivation, to achieve the mission and elevate the organization. Now, I think what this questioner was getting at, and I think is important, is that clearly the administration wants to get rid of any program that was developed for the purpose of promulgating DEI and what they say is critical race theory and gender issues, and they have been very explicit about what needs to be done. We are responsible for looking across our set of programs and activities, and any program in which there have been specific hires whose total duty is to run these programs, or they are taught as training programs for the community, what some call indoctrination programs, and government money is spent on them, we have to eliminate them. And so I want to be blunt about that. But that is the directive. Now, having said that, the issue for us as a community is to understand what our values are going forward. And we're a joint service, so Navy's values are honor, courage, and commitment. Air Force values are integrity, service, and excellence. Army's values are loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. And USU values are compassion, ethics, excellence, innovation, and selfless service. Now is the time for us to live our values. And so look to your right and look to your left. And I want you to know a couple of things. That there are individuals who are on the wide divide of the political debate in this room. There are those who voted for and those who voted against the president. But we are a society of laws, and we have orderly transition of government. But we also have values. And it's about look to your right and look to your left. How do you want that person to treat you? How should you treat that person? In understanding respect, their contribution to our community. This is the time we've got to live our values rather than label our values. You understand that? We can create our own environment without the labels and with the prohibition on special programs. By gaining a deeper understanding of what our values are and how we want to be treated and how we should treat others. So it doesn't require a label here, right? We have a mission that's too important, a mission that requires us to be academic, thought leaders, to develop the next generation of critical thinkers, leaders for the military that are going to be asked to do a tough job. Now it's time to dig deep down inside and understand what our values are, what they truly mean, and live them without labels or special programs. One other note I would make about this. If you look back in history, our society has always been marked by friction points. And for the most part, we come out better on the other side. Now, I'm old enough, and now I'm going to really date myself, right? This is dangerous, I know. I remember the 60s. And I remember that tumultuous period of friction. I remember the riots. I remember Martin Luther King. I remember it all. And it was tough. We came out better on the other side. And this is another friction point, and we've got to understand what our values are, and without labels at this point. So the new administration clearly says it wants a merit-based system rather than special sort of labeling. As I look back at my own career, I don't ever want anybody to say to me, I got to where I am because someone gave me something. What I do understand is that opportunities were created, and I was able to take advantage of those opportunities. And so that's our job. We do need to move to a merit-based system. We need to create opportunities. We need to look at the distance people have traveled in understanding that merit-based system. But the whole idea is that it may be a little uncomfortable as we find our way, but if we dig deep and understand our values, and we understand this issue of respect and honor and contribution, we'll get there. And we'll be able to continue marching on and doing good work and preparing the next generation of leaders. And When I say we, I mean everybody in our community. You know, the IT folks who have supported us, the facilities folks who respond to the broken pipes, they're all supporting. And it's about respecting everybody's contribution to the community. So that's where we need to go with this. We need to look deep and understand our collective values. Now, what I will do also is, just as the Undersecretary of P&R has been required to put together a task force to look at these programs, I'm going to put together a task force within the university to understand what we need to do to meet the requirements, as well as ensure that our community is served in terms of supporting our ability to live our values. Okay? So more to come. Additional questions around this issue ask, will scholarly work on DEI topics that have been submitted prior to the release of the executive order still be approved by the university if accepted for publication? So we work in a competitive peer review, and they will be submitted. Now, we've always had an issue of sensitive topics that need to go up the chain. And we may need to double down on this issue in terms of ensuring that you know, Health Affairs understands what's out there. As I heard in the Pentagon, I've been at the Pentagon the last 2 days, you know, in very intense sessions around many of these topics. The current administration clearly doesn't want to be blindsided, okay? And so I just throw that out there for all of you to understand that the one thing they don't want to do is be blindsided by something, okay? So that requires us to understand, and I mean, again, if you read the newspaper, you listen to whatever news source you have, you understand what the sensitivities are at this time. So just be aware of that, but we are in an academic institution. Another question is, HHS and National Science Foundation have received guidance that there is a hold on external communications that include, but not limited to, events, meetings, stakeholders, speaker engagement, social media, post mass emails to external audiences, and website postings. NIH and NSF have canceled this week's study section. Does this guidance cover DoD research programs and external communications? Specifically, can scientists submit manuscripts to be published? So we have received official guidance that posting on our official social media platforms is paused until February 3rd. We've also received guidance to remove, as I mentioned before, all DEI-related content from these websites. We've been told by Health Affairs and OSD Communications that there is not a pause on speaking engagement, events, meetings, webinars, media interviews, although again, understand sensitive topics, or publication, presentation, clearances. However, we've been advised to use discretion on what's being posted, obviously, and the like. For those things like blog articles, we've been advised to do stories that are more generic for now. And again, here's the issue I think we need to be aware of, is that the administration right now wants to deliver on its promise, wants to make a point. Those in violation are going to get hit hard. And at some point, we're going to be able to develop, you know, a better understanding of how we do business, particularly in some of these more sensitive areas, if you will. So what I'm asking for clearly is your indulgence as we work through this set of issues. As we receive guidance, we'll put it out to the greater USU community for understanding. You know, again, on the other side, my hope and expectation is that we're going to come out of this just fine and be better because we understand our values and we commit to taking care of each other. But for right now, there's a lot of intensity. The guidance I got today in the Pentagon is that we can expect every day 1 or 2 new policies, guidance, EOs to be published. And so the senior staff is working real time and very hard to ensure that we stay on top of this. We understand what it means to this community, and we make our case when appropriate to ensure that we can continue our mission. I also probably ought to make mention of who's in charge, or I should say, who are in leadership positions these days. So we know we have a new Secretary of Defense, and I'm sure you all saw that process and that announcement. We don't have a new appointed Undersecretary for Personnel Readiness. We don't have a new Assistant Secretary of Defense for Health Affairs, but what we do have is a new appointed Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for Health Affairs, who by process and statute fleets up to be the acting Assistant Secretary of Defense. And here's the really good news. He's a USU grad. All right, let's give a round of applause for that. USU grad, Dr. Stephen Ferrara, who works at Walter Reed. And so here's the good news, is that he understands us. He really understands it. He gets us, as the saying goes. And I've had now 3 or 4 sessions with him. He is fully on board with supporting what USU is doing, where USU is going. He understands our value statement in terms of support for health affairs. We've been acting as a think tank on many issues to help develop policies. So, you know, the really good news is that immediately above us, there's someone who understands what we're all about and is willing to represent us positively as we go forward. But having said that, of course, we do need to comply with legal orders and comply with policies. Again, I'm optimistic that we will be able to continue to thrive in our mission. We will be able to continue good work. We are going to need really, again, as I said, to live our values as we go forward. So I'm going to pause there and ask if there are any questions on these topics or anything else on your mind. Correct. The fork in the road memo? Yeah, so that's just an expression of this deferred resignation program, which is part of the way they're shaping the course. And for those of you who received it, it was actually promulgated by OPM, so that's an official communication with the idea that government workers, actually a wide category of government workers, can indicate, in fact, that they want to take advantage of this program, which allows, in some cases, for people to be put on administrative leave until September 30th, when their resignation will take effect. Now, having said that, there's still a lot of nuanced issues relative to that, in terms of how that's going to work, because in the memo there's some issues that if essential work needs to go on, that worker, even though they've indicated that they are going to resign September 30th might still have some duties to perform. So it's not that they're put on, everyone's going to be put on administrative leave. There are some critical functions. So we still need additional guidance to understand how that's going to be implemented. Does that answer the question? Okay. Great.
I'm Saibal Day from Biochemistry Department. I have a question related to that. So that was my first question. Second, if it happens to us as a DoD employee, it would be immensely helpful if the administration set up a point of contact who can guide these people who receive this kind of emails in order to explain what actually the deal means to them, especially those who are trying to retire and for those who are trying to take advantage of this issue.
No, excellent point, and I just want to admit, up front that we don't have the full guidance on it. We expect we'll be pushing that out as soon as possible, and we'll bring the point up to
Somebody
DNR.
from OGC or CHR.
Yeah. Great.
Is there a date that our telework agreements that are already online are going to be rescinded
You should, they're rescinded as of now.
right now?
Right, exactly. And I think we're in the process of reaching out to individuals. One of the reasons I targeted the February 24th is because what you'll see over the next couple of weeks is reaching out. We'll obviously hear from some individuals who are having hardships and the like. But you should understand that telework agreements are no longer in force as of now.
And I have a second question. If we have a government employee whose start date is February 10th, are they still allowed to come on?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank
So
you.
any of those who have, we proffered a hiring action to, they're good to go.
Hello there. I was told that I received a shout out for the holiday party. Thank you to everyone who supported me, who helped me, who came to help me decorate, who came to help me take all the decorations down and pack it back up, because I couldn't have done it without
Well, thank you, all of you.
go into the new year with some good spirits. So
Yeah.
we appreciate being allowed to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
so
Well, thank you very much.
Yes,
Very much.
okay.
I had a quick question regarding the hiring freeze.
Yeah.
Are we still allowed to work with our HJF liaisons to fill critical slots that are open that were previously filled by HJF employees?
Yeah, so we haven't had any guidance on the contractor piece yet. I'm sure there'll be more to come, but right now we haven't any guidance. This is all about government positions at this point. Am I correct, Mr. Brown? Am I correct on that? Yes. Okay. I got to turn to my subject matter experts here to make sure that I'm not saying something that's off. Any other questions on your mind? Yes.
Hello, good morning. I know everything about the telework, but the AWS schedule, is that also something that is off the table for us?
AWS.
The alternative work schedule, the 9/4s, 5s, and the 10/4s.
Mr. Brown?
Yes. That doesn't affect anything? Okay.
The question was about AWS work schedules, and the answer is it's not affected by this new policy. Okay, great.
Yeah, so with regards to the hiring freeze as well, currently our incoming graduate students are brought on as federal employees. Do you know how that process will or might be affected this year?
Yeah, so we're going to be looking at that. I think we'll probably, well, I think we're going to probably be okay, but I think we have a couple of different options there, but yeah, it's another factor that we have to look at. Okay, before we end then, another good note, again, to leave you on, is that, 2024 was actually a very successful year for USU. One of the outcomes of the legislative agenda, and we have our Vice President for External Affairs to really thank for this, is that we were able to upgrade our authorities in 2024 so that we begin to look much more like the service academies in terms of our ability to raise external funds and the like to support students, faculty, and our entire educational environment. So that is good. And we had updated in our gift authorities as well to create flexibility in receiving and dispensing those funds. So that we're going to be working this year to, again, mature our processes so that we can look much more like the service academies in trying to build additional resources to support our activities. So that is really good news and a point that we'll be working on this year. So I hope everyone had great holidays and had time to recharge your battery with families. I'll stand up here for a few minutes if there are any questions that individuals have that they didn't want to kind of voice in open session. But I want to thank all of you for what you do for USU. Your commitment to our mission. It will continue. We will thrive. And we will always strive for excellence, which I know you do every day. So thank you very much.